What's going on, fellows? It's your boy Gsluke here with our weekly DFS live stream. This time we've got the American Express, our second full field event of the entire year, which means you got a cut line this time after 3 rounds instead of 2. So a few moving parts. That includes 3 different golf courses that we'll touch on a little bit throughout the stream here. But going to bring you everything that you need to know, both from the DFS and from the prize pick side. If you have any questions this week, this is your time to go out there, go ahead and fire away with those questions. We'll get them answered for you. On the flip side, we'll go through my entire player pool. Some of it will be blacked out, but we'll talk about pretty much every player that's in the field this week. We'll go through some of my top prize picks plays, the ones that are actually still up on the board, because a lot of them ended up getting bumped. And then whatever you guys want to touch down in chat. So feel free to go ahead and ask away in terms of questions. You can see a few of you down there already. What's going on, Pro V? Hopefully you're doing well. Tom Fallon, hopefully you're doing well as well. And you already got the questions. I love it. Pro V says, what do you use for a lineup generator? So I personally have my own coded. That's a personal on my OS side where I've gone out there, I've coded it. It was actually on a Mac first. I actually had to recode it about 1.5 years ago to be used on my Windows devices. But it's real simple. It's a real simple script that I use. I actually use it for NBA as well. A few tweaks that I have between my NBA and then my golf optimizer. But something that I use on my end. It's proprietary. I'm able to do wave stacks automatically. I don't have to set groups to do so. I can just say I want at least 5 players from one certain wave and go with that. Ideally, one day, I want to make a lot of that available, but I have to have a upkeep database like up there on the internet. I'd have to do a lot of customization of a website, a lot of stuff that just personally, as I'm doing so much content, actually playing DFS right now, not equipped to handle. But perhaps once I grow the channel a little bit, get a little bit of a team working with me that could do some of the tech side stuff, we'll get that sort of thing rocking. So we'll have to see. But yeah, it's not that much different than a lot of the other optimizers out there. It's just a few customized things that I put in. So one of them is actually skill set stacks. Be able to go out there and tell I want players that are only over a certain benchmark of shots gained, because I do import like their last 30, well, actually whatever baseline I'm going to use. Sometimes it's 36 rounds. Sometimes I use their last 50 rounds in that sort of model. And I can cut it off and be like, I only want guys over 0.75 shots gained total, maybe in my lineup. And that way I'm cutting out some of the guys that are coming in with shitty form, that sort of thing. That's my optimizer. And hopefully I can make that available someday, but it's not rocket science. I have to say that. It's not like some revolutionary tool. I'm not trying to sell it like that. Let's go ahead and go through the golf courses, though. So your stadium course is your quote-unquote main course here. You'll play it one of the first 3 days. If you end up making the cut on Sunday, all the players will be on the stadium course. It is a Pro-Am format, so that's why they end up splitting it into 3 separate venues. You have groups of 2 PGA Tour players matched up with 1 Pro-Am partner apiece. So it's like they're going out there in foursomes, which leads, especially with the 2 amateurs in the group, just like 5.5 hour, even 6 hour rounds. So they all go off in one wave. They all go off pretty much within the same 2-hour stretch on every golf course. So when we hop over to the weather here, there's not going to be like this AM PM split, right? So just to answer some of the weather questions right off the bat, there's not going to be really a weather advantage to be had, but it's more important just to consider from the general difficulty, right? If it's going to be windy, we're relying on around the green a little bit more so than if it was going to be a dome out there. So we'll still talk about the weather a little bit, but there's not going to be any sort of wave stacks to worry about. When you're considering the golf courses for Showdown, we'll talk about that too. You really want to limit your pull to the Nicklaus Tournament course and then La Quinta. Nicklaus Tournament, La Quinta have kind of interchanged over the last 4 to 5 years in terms of what golf courses actually play the easiest. I would argue that for Showdown, being on La Quinta is always going to be king just because of the excess of eagle looks that you're going to have around there. There's a few drivable par 5s. Sorry, not drivable par 5s, drivable par 4s. Getting ahead of myself, a few reachable par 5s and 2 that you have on that sort of course. Whereas the Nicklaus course, it's more of just like your standard ball striking test where like a lot of the par 4s are actually the gettable holes around the Nicklaus course. So the 2 other courses outside of the stadium are significantly easier than the quote unquote main course this week. So if you're going to play Showdown for the first 3 days, I would just limit your pull to those 2 courses. And kind of like a false narrative out there is that like you only want to play guys from La Quinta. And I've kind of fallen victim to that. Like certainly if I had 2 players that were identical from the Nicholas and La Quinta course, I would choose the La Quinta player, right? They gives you a slight edge there, but it's not like it is a massive factor. Like I think it's maybe like a 2-point edge, the players that are playing on La Quinta versus the ones that are playing on Nicholas. But if you look at the leaderboard from last year over the first 3 days, there were guys at the Nicholas course that shot 7, 8. Some, actually, I believe Will Zalatoris shot 11 under par around the Nicholas course. There's plenty of low scores to be had around there too. So I just wanted to get that right out there. When we talk about showdown for rounds 2 through 4, especially for rounds 2 and 3, we'll look at the scoring averages, be able to give you a pretty good idea of how they're playing, because throughout the first 3 rounds, the courses aren't going to change, right? Because each player has to play every course. They're not going to move around the pins. They're not going to move the tee boxes. We're going to have an excess of data to go off of for rounds 2 and 3. So the only real variable that we'll have is going to be the weather, where I'm going to take a look at it. I think it's a good time for it. Good segue there. It's not going to be a massive factor outside of tomorrow. So for Thursday, we've got low winds for pretty much 75% of the round. Anyone that's teeing off at 8 a.m. should be done by the time some of the nasty winds come through. If you're teeing off closer to 10 or 10:30 a.m. local time, you might be running into some of the late winds that are coming out there around 4 or 5 p.m., but they're unpredictable. They're being projected to come out right towards the end of play. So who knows if they come in sooner? Who knows if they don't come in at all at that point for the guys that are out there on the golf course? So I'm not going to stack like the guys who are going off early tomorrow, because if you take a look at Friday, the guys that are going off early on Thursday are going to be in the worst conditions in the morning. There's the highest gusts that we have the entire day. The highest sustained winds the entire day on Friday are going to be in the morning. So if there's a slight advantage to maybe avoiding those high winds for, excuse me here, maybe there on Thursday, you might lose it over here on Friday morning. So, like I said, even if you're trying to do like the microwave advantage, trying to avoid some of those late Thursday winds, you're probably going to run into issues here on Friday. So I'm playing it relatively straight up, but on Friday, it does look like it might play a little bit more difficult. So if you're playing on the stadium course, you might run into a blow-up round on Friday. You look at Saturday and Sunday. Saturday looks beautiful, just like a Thursday. Sunday, the same sort of thing. So I guess the one thing I would say is that anybody that's playing the stadium course on Friday, again, maybe just another tiebreaker that you're using, right? You're going out there, you have 2 identical plays. You just really can't choose between 2 guys that you want to include in your player pool. Perhaps use that to make that determination. But outside of that, I don't think you have to consider it too much. You take a look at Willy Weather over here, another really good wind source. So on Thursday, they have the winds relatively stagnant in the morning, right around 4 to 5 miles an hour. In the afternoon, going down to right around 3. So pretty much, I mean, these are only sustained winds. So I guess they're not too far off of what they have over here on the super forecast. You can see from the sustained wind forecast, what they have it from 7 down to 3 miles an hour all day. I guess Willy Weather a little bit less severe, right? Closer to like 4.7 miles an hour down to 3. So maybe they're being a little bit more conservative, but this says nothing about the wind gusts in the area. So the wind gusts could be a little bit more significant. On Friday, they have it at pretty much 3.5 miles an hour the entire day. So they agree there on Friday. It's just these wind gusts late on Thursday, they're going to be a little bit unpredictable. It's like, do we think that Wind Finder is going to be correct here? And if they are, might be something to watch out for the round 1 showdown, right? So like if you're just targeting only players on Thursday, and talked about how on Friday morning that advantage might go away, right? If there ends up becoming high winds tomorrow afternoon. But for just like round 1 showdown, right? Take the guys that are going off early, right? They have no issues with the wind in the afternoon. And we know for a fact they're going to have more receptive greens, right? Like if we just have a 1 round sample size, we're always going to want to take the guys in the morning, right? If weather was going to be just a constant throughout the day. So if you're playing round 1 showdown, I would definitely still target the guys in the AM wave. I'm not sure if I would do so when it comes to the 4-round perspective. Let's go over to the player pool. Let's see if anyone else is down there in chat, catch up with what's going on here on Wednesday. Hopefully everyone's as excited as I am to make some lineups. It's my favorite day of the week to sit back. We have some hope for this weekend. There hasn't been any ejections, double bogeys. Hole number 17 on the stadium course, by the way. You've just absolutely got to hold your hat out there. That's the island greens that they have here on the stadium course. It's going to be a fun weekend. So what's going on, Robert? Let's get it. Absolutely. We have Mark down there who says he's going to give David Lingmerth one more chance for a top 20. He certainly likes this course. Yeah, so 2 runner-up finishes. I believe he's made the cut here like every time he's played. That's the quote I saw on Twitter. So I'm going off that guy's word there, the scout's honor there. But I hear, yeah, he's got a pretty good track record around this place. So yeah, I think that you're onto something. Pro says Alexander Novak could have some nice value. Crazy you say that, Pro. I'm on both of them this week. Novak, one of the top players when it comes to opportunities gained. Alexander, same thing. I talked about that during my value picks video. I agree with you 100%. We'll talk about him later. Travis says, sounds like the whiskey healed you, brother. Yeah, kind of. So I'm still feeling like a little bit of fatigue. So I actually did get a COVID test. I had COVID. But yeah, the voice, much better at this point. I think the whiskey had a lot to do with that. And hats off to Travis for giving me that idea. And yeah, we actually have a little bit of Crown and Coke here. So I ordered Chick-fil-A. I had that for dinner, and we had a little bit of Coke left over. So I put some Crown in it. So we're having a Crown and Coke. It's in the freaking Chick-fil-A cup, which I think is a little bit hilarious. But hey, we're getting closer to full health at the very least. We're like, I'd say like 90% now. It's lingering. That's the thing. When I've had COVID in the past, I've had it a few times now, but it's usually gone away quickly. It hasn't really gone away quickly this time. Hopefully you guys can hear me. My screen just flashed. Sometimes when it does that, I lose the microphone there. So hopefully we're all good. JP says, thoughts on Johnny Vegas? I think it's a little bit early to get to him, but he's your ultimate wild card. He hasn't played since he had a surgery. So he had some sort of shoulder injury. He withdrew from an event in the middle of last year, ended up coming back saying that he felt okay. Apparently he had a doctor tell him that he was good to go. He had another doctor tell him that he needed surgery. He came back. He played well for like an event or two. If you remember, like right away when he came back from the last injury, played fantastic. And then fell off the earth, like started missing cuts again, started to look like he was having some sort of injury going on. So he went out there and actually got the surgery. So, he took the first doctor's opinion, went out there, got under the knife, unfortunately. I think that he could come out, kill it like he did last time. But the difference here is that he actually had surgery. He's taken a little bit more time away from the game this time around, JP, but he's done it before. So if you want to be early, you want to take that risk, I think he's a perfect proposition. I just personally haven't gone there. And, now that I mention it, maybe I should, right? Because he's done it in the past. So we'll have to see, JP. I'm not there personally, at least not yet. My player pool is already relatively large, so I don't need anyone else in my pool. If I did, then he would definitely be in consideration. Jack says, would you still be worried about Xander's back issues? It's funny. It's funny you should mention him. It's a great time to talk about it. So he just did a little bit of a presser an hour ago, actually, at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. local time over there. And the moderator opened with a question about the back, asked him how he was feeling, just like straight up, you withdrew with back issues at the Century. This is your first event back. How are you feeling? Which, first off, thank you, moderator, for being so direct, literally starting off the presser with this sort of argument. And here's what he said. I'll give you guys the exact quote. Let me bring it up on Discord. I sent it to the Discord guys about half an hour ago. Moderator said, making your first start back the season since Century with a withdrawal. How's your back feeling? So like I said, very direct, great question to ask. Xander said, yeah, it's a little sore, trying to be as patient as possible, to take things as slow as possible in terms of getting in too many reps, and I guess being stupid in that sense. But I'm known to try and practice too much at times. I'm going to try and take this one slow so I don't feel hurt again or do something of that nature. And then he paused for like 5 seconds, and then he said, I feel good. Obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel solid. Looking forward to the week. To me, that gave us a little bit of both, right? He hit us with the whole, yeah, it's sore at the beginning, right? Which you have to say, yeah, he's definitely going to be sore. But then he hit us at the end with the, I feel good. I wouldn't be playing if I didn't think I could play this week. And he went on to talk about how he had all the shots. He didn't feel like he had to hold back with the driver anymore because of getting cleared by the doctor. He was talked about playing with Cantlay for 3 days. So it sounded like he was fully intent on going out there and finishing this event. No. So Jack, there's obviously concern, right? There's obviously risk. He could flare up tomorrow. He could flare up mid-round. He could start like 3-4 over par because he's rusty and end up withdrawing just because he's shameful, right? Just goes, you know what? What's the point of even being out here? Let's go ahead and get some more rehab done. Or he might win this golf tournament, because half the time this stuff comes out, the guys go out there and end up smashing, winning the golf tournament. And it's happened too many times for me at this point to overreact. So when I hear someone say, and honestly, the last line is really all I care about. I'll say it again. I feel good. Obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel solid. That's all I have to hear. It's that simple to me. So yes, I'm playing him this week. Am I worried about it? Yes, but I'm going to take his word on it. He said it an hour and 15 minutes ago, so it's as fresh as you can get. Ewin says just about the winner on your based on my player pool. I'm assuming is what you're talking about. I love it. Hopefully we aren't in the same contest though, because I'd prefer to have the winner in the 25K contest. NSN says thoughts on your boy JT. I think your boy JT played extremely well last week. I have to say that I am on him this week. So I like the way that you're thinking there. But with JT, the irons last week, he was a gainer. He was a slight gainer with the off the tee play. And the putter, he only gained, I believe it was like 0.7 something shots with the putting over the 4 rounds. And you know this better than anyone, Isaiah. I mean, the kid's a stud with the putter. So if he can go out there, continue that ball striking and just improve, get back to like what he typically does with the putter, which is gaining 2-3 strokes in an event of that category. Yeah, I really, really like him this week. So he's in from the DFS format for everybody out there. I know you're not really asking from that perspective, NSN, but yeah, I like him for DFS. I like him outright, and I like his chances in general. So definitely out there with JT this week. Robert says, crown my guy, official Canadian. Yeah, I have a Canadian in my pool that we're going to talk about. That I was drinking the Crown. I thought about it. I looked into the stats a little bit. Yeah, there's a Canadian that I really like this week. Is around the green important? Swafford won last year, and he was ranked 193 out of 193. There's not really one stat that's important here. So that's the exact point. You have 3 different courses. Is it important at the stadium course if they played it for all 4 rounds? Absolutely. If they played that, Thursday through Sunday, around the green would be an extremely important stat, exactly like what you have at Pebble Beach, because the greens are 4,300 square foot. That's smaller than Pebble Beach greens. I mean, the Pebble Beach are the smallest greens that you play for, most of, I don't know why they don't count the ones at the stadium course. They're smaller than the ones at Pebble Beach. It's important there. So like I said, if we played the stadium, it would count, but we don't, right? We have La Quinta that has, relatively large greens where the around the green super easy because of how receptive the surfaces are. At the Nicklaus course, the greens are a lot larger. They're closer to 7,000 square foot. So it's like your regular PGA Tour event where around the green, especially for like DFS purposes, doesn't matter, right? Because at a birdie fest, we're not really looking for it. So it depends. I would say you want to have it in your modeling every single week that you're going out there. But if you're looking at showdown or you're looking to try and break ties, yes, it matters, because on Sunday under pressure, when these players are playing for $1 million or they're playing for those top 5 placement points when it comes to DFS right on our side, you want the guys that have the around the green play, because that's what they're going to be under pressure on right on Sunday when they're playing the stadium course. So it's a tough one, fantasy. When you have the 3-course rotation, it kind of waters everything down. It makes right off the tee can be important at one course, and then at one course like La Quinta, off the tee almost doesn't matter, because you could in theory lay up off every single hole and still have almost a wedge almost into every single green. It's just hard to say. So I would say focus on the scoring stats, focus on birdie or better percentage, opportunities gained, just regular shots gained putting, regular shots gained approach. It's just one of the weeks to look at fundamental analysis, right? I would say event history, recent form, that sort of thing. Try not to look too much into the skill set fit. That would be my advice at the very least. Nick says, only 4 hours till tee times in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I bet on it on Prize Picks too. So after I make my lineups here for Draftkings, I'll be able to hop over, take a look at some of my sweats over there on the Abu Dhabi side. Andrew says, should you play Taylor Montgomery or Cam Davis? So if I were making that decision, it would be Cam Davis for me. It's close. It just comes down to the ball striking. I mean, I'll just go ahead and say it now. I had to say it at some point here. This whole putting contest thing, right? The only reason that people say that this is a putting contest is because John Rahm went ahead and bitched about it last year. Before last year, nobody called this a putting contest. You thought that putting was like of average importance, but when you consider how small the greens are, it turns into a little bit of an irons fest, because when you have 4,300 square foot greens at La Quinta, they're like 4,700 square foot, so they're not that much larger. you have to be a good iron player to set up those birdie looks, or else you're chipping, you're getting up and down and saving par, but you're not making any headway on a winning score that's going to be 20 to 25 under par. So I've had it with the people that are saying this is a putting contest, right? Saying that, oh, I believe Jon Rahm or something like that. You know why Jon Rahm said that? Because he was being a whiny little bitch. We've seen it on the golf course before. And by the way, I hope he sees this. He throws golf clubs and almost hits people at the US Open or PGA Championship, whatever event that was. He does things that are just so childish, right? Why are we going to believe him when he says something like that? I'll show you guys the stats on it. I mean, it's not even an argument, okay? Let's look at the stadium course. This is where they had the shots gained from last year, right? Tell me how this is a putting contest. You look at the top 25 finishers from last year. 4 of them are green, right? Okay, Swafford gained a bunch with the putter, sure. Well, he won the golf tournament. If you want to win a golf tournament, you're going to gain a bunch with the putter, right? Rocket science, right? Oh, Tom Hoagie finished 2 shots back. He lost with the putter. Oh, McCarthy, right? He gained a bunch of strokes with the putter. It's Denny McCarthy. He's one of the best putters in the world. Oh, no duh, right? Siwoo Kim gained 2 strokes with the putter. Sure. Okay, that's one other player in the top 25. Oh, and then you have Roger Sloan down here at 14th. Out of the top 25 finishers, I would say 4 of them gained significantly, right? And if you wanted to include a Harmon and Atlantic Griffin here, sure, you can include that in an argument. Okay, 6 of the top 25 players last year gained significantly with the putter at the stadium course, which is at least half your golf tournament. Tell me how this is a putting contest, right? And by the way, this isn't pointed at you, Andrew. This is a rain general. I think that whole narrative, people just are lazy. They listen to a player whining about something and they take it as the gospel truth. When the stats, and this isn't even just this year, look at the shots gained breakdown for 2021. Look at it for 2020. Look at it for 2019 for that matter. It tells you the same exact story. So I'm going to look at the numbers. I'm not going to let Jon Rahm's little whiny bitch ass go out there and talk me off of something that the stats say otherwise. So to answer your question, Andrew, to circle back on that, it's Cam Davis. He's the better ball striker. And that's the reasoning for that. I had to come out at some point. I had to get it out there in content because I've had it with people just with their lazy analysis. Like, oh, Jon Rahm said it, so it's got to be the gospel truth, right? We got to go out there and play all the putters now at a golf course with 4,300 square foot greens. Like, sure, that makes plenty of sense at a ball striking test. Travis Swenson says, you're thinking Billy Z gets that putter going. If he does, he wins the golf tournament. Nick Morse says, you heard Cantlay is getting Xander back massages. Oh, boy. Anytime they play together, by the way, the last time they played together was at the Travelers, and Xander Schauffele ended up winning. Just saying. Solver works with Luke's projections. Yeah, all you have to do is go and import them if you end up having my projections, so it works. Ewan says, know your DK contest. Chances of Monty. He could win any golf tournament. So, by the way, it wasn't like I was trashing Monty on this comment when I went off on all the putters. Great player. He could still win this golf tournament. Don't take it the wrong way, Monty. Yes, I am trashing you, Jon Rahm, for being a little child sometimes. I will trash him for that. I'm completely okay trashing Jon Rahm. But Montgomery, he could win here. I don't love him. I think it's more of a ball striking test than everyone else thinks. So I think the value is on some of the ball strikers. Pro B says, you're new to making max entries. How many people are in your player pool when you make 150 teams? So this week there's 36. So I have 36 players in my pool. I'm really scattershotting down low. So I have a lot of guys that are going to be like 2.5%, 3% owned, something in that range, right? Give or take, right? 2 or 3 lineups, maybe 3 or 4 lineups. It depends. In a week like this, when I think you want to scattershot down low, add to the pool, but something in the range of 30 to 40 should be a pretty good range for you, Pro V. Fantasy says, how the F does Cantlay get to play with Xander? No, they rig it. Obviously, for this event, because it's 3 rounds long, it's rigged. They do it on purpose. You hate Rahm. I don't even hate Rahm. I like him. I love the personality. He kind of acts like I do. Like, I get a little out of hand when I get pissed off. So I understand it. And he's like that too. So like, I respect it, but you know, I'm very self-aware. Like I discipline myself for doing that sort of thing. I realize how dumb I look when I do that sort of thing. And I don't think he has any reconciliation for it. He just continues to do it. And in the media, he just like brushes it off. So I've had it with him. Nick says, Rahm is that Brian Stewart zone. No, I still like him too. I played him last week. I had him in the freaking player pool and he won. So, I mean, at the Century, I was very happy about that. I bet him outright. I had won on it. But yeah, he's got to get it together between the years, if you got what I'm saying. Anthony says Monty is literally the World Series putting champ. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. He could win at any golf tournament, but I'm not as big on the putting this week as everyone else. So not such a big factor for me this week, right? If I'm not looking at putting. Let's look at the top end of the board. Still love Scotty. So I have the ownership on here for some of the featured players. Again, if you're looking for all the modeling, all the projections, who's in my player pool, it's obviously not just the players that I have on here. Make sure to check out the Patreon page. But up top, Scotty Scheffler at 10.5. I'm still on him, especially now at only 14.5% ownership. Most people are getting to a Jon Rahm. Patrick Cantlay might be your highest owned player on the slate, given that he's only $10,100. And his average finishing position at this event is 6.33. So he's averaging a 6th, maybe a 7th place finish around the American Express. So I understand why he's chalked. Jon Rahm, he's won this event before. He may even have a 2nd place finish way back in the day around the American Express. So for as much as he wants to call it a putting contest that he hates it and so off, he's a pretty good course fit. So I understand the ownership, but I'm taking the ownership pivot side. I'm going out there, fading those mega chalk options up top because I don't want to play a Jon Rahm in half my lineups. I don't want to play a Patrick Cantlay in half my lineups. And to get the kind of leverage that you need to in large field GPPs, that's pretty much what you have to do. And sure, you could play 60% of both of them and build lineups. That's fine, right? But that's keeping me away from 2 or 3 guys up there that I think have arguably just as much winning upside, potentially more in a few scenarios. I mean, given Scotty Scheffler's resurgence with the putter, if he continues that, you're looking at somebody that could absolutely trounce this field, win it by 5-6 strokes. I comp this a little bit close to what you have at Waste Management. Green surface is almost identical to what they're going to have at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And of course, Scotty Scheffler, that's where he got his first tournament. Went out there, was able to break out. I know it's a birdie fest. Before Scotty went out there, took care of the US Open, was in contention there, won the Masters, a few other harder events but you have an API, right? He won there. He started to kind of get a reputation for being a hardcore course specialist, kind of like a Will Zalatoris. You put him on a difficult track, you start to think of a Willie Z, you start to think of a Scotty Scheffler. Well, before he won at Waste Management, we thought of Scotty as an easy course kind of guy. When he used to pop, especially his rookie year, his 2nd year on tour, it was at these birdie fest. It was at a course where you'd see someone 20 plus under par winning. So don't forget that, right? If you're new to DFS, if you've only been playing for the last year and a half, you might not remember that about Scotty Scheffler. But at one point, he was that first round leader sort of player. He was our Will Gordon, honestly. At one point, he was 1-to-1 comparison to a Will Gordon on tour. Aggressive player, could be your first round leader. You won him at Birdie Fest, but he can't go out there and win golf tournaments. Well, look at him now. And I'm not saying, Will Gordon's going to be that sort of player, but Scotty Scheffler at one point was that kind of guy. Right? He was that new guy on the block that had all that potential, but couldn't get it done under difficult conditions. And how have times changed for Scotty Scheffler. Tony Finau, I think he's an excellent play. Going to try to not talk about him too much, but if you know that I'm fading Rahm and Cantlay, you probably know what I'm doing with good old Tony Finau. But my model's number 2 play this week. He's in the teens when it comes to his ownership. So he's not in the 20% range. I don't expect him to be 25% owned this week. Towards the beginning on Tuesday, let's say towards the morning on Tuesday, I was projecting him for closer to 13-14% ownership. But as the week has gone on, you've had some people start to steam him up over the last day and a half. That ownership number has increased. So it's towards the higher teens in terms of his ownership, but still something that I'm willing to get leverage on. We touched on Cantlay. He's just chalky. I mean, I'd play him. Like I said, if ownership wasn't a thing in PGA DFS, I would have Jon Rahm and Cantlay in the pool. But because we have to consider ownership, getting leverage, win equity, some of the pivots in that range, I like the pivots more. Honestly, I like Tony Finau and Scotty more than I like Jon Rahm and Cantlay. And Rahm and Cantlay are higher owned. So it's relatively straightforward for me. If I really liked Rahm or Cantlay, it might make it a harder decision, right, on whether I wanted to fade them or not. But literally just based on course fit, a lot of different things like course fit, splits on putting surfaces, ball striking, especially, right? That's what I'm really looking at this week. That's what's separating a Scheffler and a Finau from these other two guys. We talked about Xander. I'm playing him. I'm not going crazy on him, though, right? He's only 9% owned, so it's not like I have to play him in 30, 40% of lineups to get that leverage. I did bet him outright before the books are able to adjust for that news that came out. When I was watching it live, particularly some of the follow-up questions, he seemed extremely positive. And he didn't look like he was worried about playing this week. Didn't look like he was considering withdrawing, that sort of thing. So at 10 grand, in DFS, I think he's an okay play. But given his outright number, especially because if it's clouded by his questionable status, I think it was exceptional value. So I hit on that. Willie Z, 17.7% owned. You don't love the ownership, but I told you guys, if it was less than 20%, I was going to be willing to get that leverage there, and that has held up. So I'm still going to be getting to a Willie Z, probably right around 35 to 40% exposure in my player pool. Going with the good old 2x roll there. In terms of a few other of these 9K options, I think that this is a gold range, like an absolute gold mine. If you're trying to find players that are underpriced and guys that have legitimate winning upside. So Sungjae Im, Tom Kim, who ended up both missing the cut last week, I think it's a great spot to get leverage to them. You're going to have people that are completely jaded by what happened last week, are unwilling to go out there and play these two players just because they missed the cut. So anytime you have that psychological effect, I usually try and take advantage of it. And I know it's a much stronger field, but Sungjae Im, he's made the cut here in all 4 trips. I believe he has like 4 top 11 finishes. Let's see. I know he has elite course history. So let's scroll up and find the exact numbers. Yeah, so it's 4 top 12 finishes. An 11th, 12th, 10th, and a 12th place finish. That you can't find a better course history. So love Sungjae Im for a bounce back. Like Tom Kim as well. He's not the perfect course fit because I am looking for those ball striking stats. But I mean, he might be one of the best iron players in the world at this point. So he's not the worst course fit. I think Tom Kim can pretty much win at any course. You have Sam Burns, $9,400. If you're looking for an ultimate pivot, somebody that's probably overpriced for how he's been playing of late, it's a Sam Burns. But the one thing I'll say about good old Sammy is he's won twice in a row at Valspar Championship, and those greens are overseeded the same way as the stadium course. The same exact sort of combination that they have over there is what you see for Valspar, and he's your 2-time returning champion. So for as much as I like Davis Riley too, he also gained a bunch of strokes putting there at the Valspar. It might be a little bit of a sneaky little angle to take into Sam Burns at $9,400. Down into the 8K range, we'll touch on Cameron Young before we go into the 8K range. Cam Young's super chalky, and he's that one piece of chalk this week that I'm just eating. I'll say it, right? I loved him going into the week. I bet him outright. You can't talk me off of Cam Young. He might be 25% owned. He might even be something like 26, 27% owned. He's that much a better play than everybody else in this range. And if you ask me, do you like him? I don't know, like 1.5 times as much as a Siwoo Kim? Do you like him 1.5 times as much as an Aaron Wise, Taylor Montgomery? Because that's the kind of ratio that they have in terms of ownership. The answer is yes. I do actually, because I think that his win equity is probably 1.5 times higher than a lot of these other players. Like from a median standpoint, when you're looking at just median projection, sure, no, of course not. But if you gave me a head-to-head between the two players, right? Like I would not take those odds. But if you're talking about win equity, going out there and breaking the slate, then yes, I do think he's that much more likely to succeed. So I like him in GPPs. Even with that ownership, I'm probably playing 35, 40%, if not something closer to like 45 or 50% when it comes to my final exposure. So we'll have to see on Cam Young. He's chalk, but I get it. I understand it. Unlike a John Rahm and a Patrick Cantlay, like they're not some of my favorite plays in the slate, right? Whereas a Cam Young, immediately when I brought up the betting board, when I brought up the Draftkings pricing board, I saw he was $9,100, was just somebody that I was immediately funneled to. So I'm not going to be talking myself off of the Cam Young. Let's see what's going on down in chat. We have a question about Davis Riley. Love him. Like the opportunities gained. The ball striking stats haven't been ideal. The approach play has been right around 1/3 of a stroke. The off the tee play is actually a slight loser. So I'll bring those up for you. You can see a slight loser off the tee, right around 1/3 of a stroke with the iron play. What I like are the fact that he's still giving himself a bunch of 10 to 15 foot birdie putts. So if you look at opportunities gained, that's a stat where it gives you the amount of time somebody has a birdie putt from within 15 feet. Opportunities plus gained is within 10 feet on the PGA Tour. Davis Riley is top 5 in both of those categories. So I like that. So the shots gained, right? They're not beautiful. Right? They don't paint the best picture for Davis Riley. But when you look at some of the advanced analytics, some of the scoring stats, which you're definitely going to need at a Birdie Fest, like what you have here at the Amex, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'll be getting to that. And something I want to mention too is I know somebody before was asking about around the green play. I am considering around the green a little bit more this year than perhaps back there in 2020 and 2021 because of how cold it is. It's going to be around 50 degrees every single day, and that's pretty much the high. That conditions are going to play longer. The course is going to play longer than it typically does. And on top of that, the rough's also going to play a little bit more penal because it's cold, because it's it's cold. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys know this. The ground holds moisture, right? It tends to play a little bit harder. So when you're in that rough, it's going to be a little bit scruffier. So I don't know why I mentioned that when I brought up Davis Riley, but it's worth noting. And his around the green play hasn't been horrible of late. I guess that's why I brought it up. He's just a slight loser. There are times where Davis Riley's hemorrhaging strokes around the green. So I know the shots gained aren't beautiful. I think he's closer than I guess they portray. So yeah, I like him, Michael. I would be comfortable going ahead and dishing him out. Pro V says, what's your take on Siwoo? I think you're a week late if you're trying to get to Siwoo. I played him last week. I took advantage of that. I'm going to be off him here. I know he has elite course history and whatnot, but just he's a volatile as hell player. He goes out there. He'll be great one week. He'll miss the cut the next. Heck, he'll win a golf tournament. He'll miss the cut for the next 3 or 4 events. He's not shy about going out there and doing that. It's just, I think you're chasing if you're taking Siwoo Kim. I would wait till he's low owned, wait till he's lower priced. That tends to be the best time to take Siwoo. Ewan says Showdown going to be fun. Yeah, especially rounds 2 and 3 when we have all that data. George says Putnam, Poston, Im, Harmon, Lee, and Davis. Might be your lineup. That sounds like an 8K range galore lineup. I can't talk you off of it. I like all of them. Ray Martin says thoughts on KH Lee. So, like I'm at a TPC course, right? Unfortunately, only 2 of the 4 rounds are going to be at the TPC Stadium course out there at PGA West. But what I like about him is just his upward trajectory. He's a much better player over the last 6 months than he has been for his entire career. He's gaining across the board when it comes to the shots gained. I'm bullish on his chances in general this year, especially when you see that he's gaining 0.5 strokes approach per round over his last 36 rounds. That's more than significant. That's really getting it done when it comes to the iron play. And though the putting stats on Bermuda aren't the best, these aren't true Bermuda grass surfaces. So I'm looking more at just your pure shots gained to putting. And over the last 36 rounds, he hasn't been too bad, right? He's a gainer in that category. So yeah, I like him. I think that just in general, I expect quite a bit from KHE this year. And if he's going to be relatively low owned, if he's going to be somebody that's a decent price, right? He's not like a 9-10K golfer, then count me in. I'll be all over him. Jackson says, any Xander at minimal ownership? Heck yeah. I bet him outright, actually. So I talked about him here about 10 minutes ago. If you scroll back, you'll be able to hear my full take on it. But from what we heard, and I'll read you the exact quote here. This is probably all you need to hear. You don't need to hear too much here. This is Xander. Says, I feel good. Obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel solid. Looking forward to the week. To me, sounds like he's good to go. He did mention that the back was sore, but I don't know. When I hear someone say that they feel good, that they wouldn't be there if they weren't feeling solid, you have to think that they're doing at least okay. Nick says 11 of the past 12 winners have played in at least the Sony or Tournament of Champions. Are you taking that into consideration? No, I don't look at trends at all. I think that the trends are probably the silliest thing that you could look at. Like I can give you the math behind it and whatnot. Last week, for example, everyone was talking about how I believe it was like 8 of the 8 last winners had played at the Tournament of Champions. Well, guess who won last week? Siwoo Kim. He wasn't at the Tournament of Champions. So that's all I got to say about that. Because I fucking hate trends. That it's not analytical. It's just pure count based analysis. If you're not doing correlations over a large sample size, a lot of analysis is useless. And just to give you the idea, right? Like you have an 8 event sample size to go off of. You can't make an accurate assumption off of 8 or 11 events. So you could say, oh, over the last 8 years, all this happened. It was a whole 8 years of data. No, it's not 8 years of PGA Tour data. It's 8 specific events. And to use 8 data points for any sort of analysis is ludicrous. Ludicrous, right? Whereas if you use correlation analysis, you're looking at the entire field. You're looking at average finishing position, that sort of thing. that matters. So yeah, no trends to me, bro. I'll never be a trends guy. I'll never look at them like at all. And anything, it could be anything, bro. It could even be helping my case on a player, and I'm not going to take it seriously. It's that to me, it's very lazy analysis. And I know a lot of people put a lot of effort to going in, finding in those trends. It's not doing all the legwork that you need. It's small sample size, extremely volatile analysis. Pro V says you're going to have any Harry Hall. Not personally. I'm going to be off of him. He's a volatile player. He played well over the last few weeks, but if you look in the fall swing, it was a bunch of missed cuts. So he's not somebody you can really rely on. So if he's getting a bunch of ownership, I'm not going to be there. Tony says you're playing winner takes all contests. Any different strategy? Anything different wise? Take it for a GPP strategy, right? So if you're playing a winner takes all, you play this sort of strategy you would in a large field GPP, where you're trying to get leverage to the field. You're trying to finish in that top 0.1 or top, first percentile, that sort of thing. Because in a winner takes all, there's smaller contests, right? So if there's 100 people in it, if there's like maybe 1,000 people in a large winner takes all, usually they're not that large, right? If they were, though, you'd be wanting to finish in the top 0.1%. So you have that same sort of idea, right? You want to get leverage to the field. So a GPP sort of mindset is what I'd go with. JP says favorite under $6,700 besides Alexander. We'll talk about a few of them, JP. There's actually, I think like four guys we're going to talk about a little bit later. So we'll get to a JP. Just remind me then. Obviously you'll see a few around then. Jack says, hasn't Cantlay got a problem regarding club sponsorship? He's using new clubs. He purposefully, and this wasn't like an accident, it wasn't like he was let go from Titleist, who was his club sponsor before. He willingly let go of Titleist. And there have been a few players to do this over the years that don't want a club sponsor, so they can use whatever the hell they want, right? They can use whatever equipment. If they want tailor-made irons, if they want a Titleist driver, if they want a ping putter, they can do whatever the heck they want, right? But if you're a club sponsor, right, you have to have all Titleist clubs. That's all he's doing. I think it might help him, Jack. I'm not so much, so sure this week, right? Because if he's been doing a lot of tinkering, that might take him a couple weeks to get adjusted to. But in general, that's the sort of move that could take somebody like to the next level. So I like the move for Cantlay in terms of his general career there. Maybe not so much this week. We'll have to see. It's hard to say, Jack. I mean, heck, maybe he's just going back to clubs that he used in college, right? So it's not like there's that much of an adjustment. He just snaps and destroys this week. That could happen too. So if you like Cantlay, Jack, then play him. Like, I don't make that the reason you're not playing him. I personally don't like Cantlay because I think it's going to be a little bit more ball striking heavy this year. But if you're in the putting crew, right, and you're looking at course history, like I said, just fundamental analysis, then play Cantlay. Like I totally understand it. And I'm not saying that like it's 100% going to be a ball striking week. Like, that's just my take on it, right? I could be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times before, plenty of times, more than I'd like. I've been wrong, but it's definitely the stand that I'm taking. Pro V says Luke List or Ben Griffin. Ben Griffin all day. From the course fit, also just the overall talent level. Gotta love Ben Griffin. Fratelli love. I won't be getting to Fratelli, but I don't hate it. I mean, he's high birdie percentage player. He just hasn't done anything for a while, but he kind of does that, right? He just like disappears for 5-6 events, then goes out there and finishes top 10. You're like, why didn't I play Dylan Fratelli this week? He was 1% owned, right? You could have gone leverage playing him in 3% of lineups, so on and so forth. I don't know, Nick. If you have him in 5% of your lineups right now, or like 7%, that sort of thing, I like it. I think it's a pretty good thing to get to. Damon says, tuning in kind of late, you playing too much Showdown. I will be on tomorrow and then for Saturday. So the reason I'm not playing it today is mostly because of the Nicklaus course. So like, I don't know. Going into the week, I think I had this false misconception, like most people, that like you only want to target guys on La Quinta. But looking at some of the data from like 2-3 years ago, so looking a little bit further back, the Nicklaus course sometimes plays like 3 strokes under par. So I don't know. I'm going to wait until Friday. I'm definitely going to play Friday, definitely going to play Saturday. If you're playing tomorrow, play Nicklaus and La Quinta players. Play both of them. Just don't take any risks there because both of them have historically played really easy. It depends on setup. If they put up easy pin locations on one of the courses, might play a little bit easier than the other. But we'll definitely know for Saturday, and we'll definitely know for Friday as well, because we'll have that data after tomorrow's round. Martin says, you're happy that they'll actually finish the rounds and not have a Thompson situation. Yeah, spoiler alert, I'm actually playing Thompson this year. And Martin says, thoughts on Thigala? Surprised you got him at $6,600. Love him. He's actually one of the core picks this week. I bet him outright. I got him at 65-1, so you actually got a little bit of a better number than me. So I don't know how you got 66. I got 65-1. They only have round numbers over there at my book. I love him. Yeah, we'll talk about him here in about 5 seconds, actually. So let's talk about the 8K range. We went through Cam Young. I'm playing him as a chalk. It is what it is. He's high owned. If you're looking for an aggressive player that can go out there and ball strike it, that's Cam Davis. So I absolutely love him. I promised we'd talk about us to hit the gala. $8,600 has the opportunities gained that you're looking for. And if we're going to use a comp course as the Phoenix Open, right, the waste management, why not the guy that finished runner up, right? Scotty ended up trouncing him out there. Actually, maybe it was third place, right? I guess he was just outside of the playoff there. Why not hit the gala to bounce back? He's had a few rough performances of late, but that's just kind of what he does. He's volatile. He's going to miss a few cuts. He's going to have a few blow-up performances, and then he's going to finish top 5 out of nowhere. So $8,600, single-digit owned. Sign me up. I'm right with you there, Martin. Tom Hoge, it's worth noting, he's twice as owned as a Sahith Theegala. And I know before, like I said, sometimes it's all about the win equity. Well, in this case, Tom Hoge does not have twice the win equity of a Sahith Theegala, right? I mean, if anything, I think Sahith Theegala has more win equity than a Tom Hoge. Like, I think Tom Hoge has a lot more like top 10 or top 20 upside than maybe a Theegala, but you can't tell me that he's more likely to win. Like Sahith Theegala, when he's out there and he has his best stuff, he's in contention. That's just how he is, right? He's very hit or miss when it comes to his game. Up here with Cam Young, he's kind of like that same popper, right? Where he's not just a popper, he's also the best player in this range. So he's that popper, and I think he's just way underpriced. So you have to take it on a case-by-case basis, right? That's why, I don't fade all chalk, right? There's going to be pieces of chalk that I'm playing, and then pieces of chalk that I'm a little bit more wary to play. And, with Sahith Theegala, with Tom Hoge, for example, Hoagie's a piece of chalk that I'm a little bit more worried about, especially because he's $8,400. Love KH Lee. He's a great pivot who's going to be a lot lower owned than a Tom Hoge. This range right here, from Hadwin the whole way down to Rose, I'd say. There's a few guys I like a Poston I talked about. I love Taylor Pendrith there. I mean, even a Jason Day is not the worst play of the slate, especially considering the form's been on fire. But a Justin Rose and Hadwin, Wyndham Clark, these guys are just overpriced. They're kind of misplaced on the board, in my opinion. It's a range to fade outside of a few guys I think are positives. One of them being a Pendy. Pendy, not the Canadian that I was talking about before. I was talking about the Crown. But Taylor Pendrith, he's got the ball striking in the birdie or better percentage. He's hyper aggressive. When he has his game, he's able to go out there, get into contention. And when he's hitting it a little bit swirly, you're going to see that as well, right? He's not afraid to go out there and miss a cut. So if you're looking for a cash play, maybe a single entry play, don't play Pendrith. But if you're playing in a large field GPP and he's only going to be 7% owned, I mean, give me a break. This guy has got plenty of upside to finish in the top 10, top 5. And $8,000 is more than a fair enough price tag. I know the recent form, at least per the shots gained, aren't beautiful. He's still gaining a bunch off the tee. He's gaining a bunch with the putter. Just that short game's kind of let him down, right? Losing about a quarter of a stroke per round around the green, a little bit there with the putter. I don't know. The shots gained are a little bit thrown off by events that don't actually have the metrics. So if you look at his shots gained total here, you can see he's actually a loser to the field. That's only because the events without shots gained, which let's bring it up. I actually can't even remember what event that was for him. Let's see. It was the 66 over here at the Houston Open. Actually, even before that, I think he played, wasn't the CJ Cup. It might have been the Zozo Championship where he went out there and missed the cut. That really killed a lot of his shots gained metrics. So in the measured stuff looks pretty good. He's gaining 0.6 measured strokes over his last 36 rounds. But unfortunately had that little bit of a stinker. So don't look into that too much. I think he's still a very live play. Ricky Fowler, let's get into it. So I wanted to avoid this, but I bet Ricky Fowler outright here. He's $7,800. He loves this golf course, and we haven't seen him for a long time. The last time we saw Ricky Fowler play was back at the CJ Cup. Let's see, where is he at? Ricky Fowler, yeah, back at the CJ Cup, but at this event specifically, missed cut 21st 10th place finish. You look at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, has had a ton of success there. You look at some of the West Coast events like Pebble. You look at Torrey Pines, for example. Ricky Fowler has had a lot of top 5, top 10 finishes. So he loves playing out here. And he's obviously very familiar being from out West. And on top of that, the swing looks a lot better. And they put out a swing video about a week ago. This is actually a narrative-based pick. So if you're not about the narrative, just don't play Ricky. I understand it. But his swing, it looks like the old Ricky Fowler swing. He's no longer doing like the John Rahm abbreviated backswing. The follow through looks complete. It's no longer sawed off like you were seeing before. And I'm assuming that's going to give him some distance. I mean, anytime you add a little bit of arc length, you add a little bit of fluidity to a golf swing, it's typically going to translate to some club head speed. And I don't know, it looked extremely stable. I don't know, it looked beautiful. Obviously, Ricky Fowler, known for having one of the more aesthetically pleasing swings out there. But I don't know, everything out of the camp, everything we've heard from some of the people that are close to Ricky Fowler have been extremely positive. And he's played well at this course, and he loves desert courses. So yeah, I'll definitely be there on good old Ricky Fowler. In this 7K range, still like Davis Riley, we talked about him a few times. In this top of the 7K range, guys like Dietrich are going to be chalky. Alex Smalley tends to stand out. You got to love Alex Smalley's form coming into this. I'd say Harris English is a pretty good X factor, given his putting strength. Some of the recent form, he really seems to be striping it a lot better, hitting more fairways, starting to be a little bit more consistent with the iron play. So $7,600, I think that's fair. Still like Munoz, not a lot of people are getting there, which is actually an added benefit. We didn't expect him to be chalky though, so that's not really a surprise. Will Gordon at $7,400. I'm looking for aggressive, high birdie percentage players, and if you're looking for an aggressive player, Will Gordon more than checks that box. Ben Griffin's only 8.4%. So actually, ever since I did the value picks video this morning, he's gone down in ownership. So I actually like that. Taylor Moore, on the other hand, is pretty much completely unowned. He's 1.1%. And in the fall swing, everyone was playing Taylor Moore. I mean, this was somebody that was just getting a lot of attention out there. So why not play him here? He's got the birdie or better percentage. I mean, let's look at the last 36 rounds. I mean, they're not that bad. Let's look at this. So he's right around neutral with the ball striking stats. That's fine. And then doing all the work with the putter. That's just kind of what he's known for. Just go out there, spike a little bit with the ball striking. Right? I'm not asking for too much. I like gain 2 strokes ball striking Taylor Moore over the entire weekend. He's more than capable of gaining 6-7 strokes of the putter and getting himself into contention. So we'll have to see with Taylor Moore. Hopefully he can go out there and have that spike week. But I don't know, 1.1% ownership. I feel a lot better about that than the 15, sometimes the 16, 17% numbers he was coming at in the fall. And I know weaker fields, right? But he was like $8,700, and the guy was pretty highly owned. Like he was significantly owned in those contests. Now you're talking about $7,300, and he hasn't played of late, right? He's taken some time off, as you probably should as a PGA Tour player. And now no one wants to play him. So I don't know. Sounds good to me. I'll definitely play him. I'll get leverage at 7-8%. Callum Turan, $7,200. He's a little bit more chalky, but kind of like a Ben Griffin. I'm still willing to eat that chalk. Johnny Vegas is your ultimate pivot play. If you're looking for a super low-owned player at the bottom of the 7K range that could finish in the top 5, it is a Johnny Vegas. But like we talked about before, he brings a lot of injury risk to the table, a lot of volatility. So you have to ask yourself whether that's worth considering. Down to the top of the 6K, pure bottom of the 7K range. Neesmith, another player that just hasn't played of late. He's cheaper because we haven't seen him. Kind of like, you saw up there with a few of the other plays. We had Taylor Moore, cheaper than he should be because we haven't seen him. Let's see, who else? Like Ricky Fowler, right? $7,800. People don't want to get to him because we haven't seen him of late. Well, if you just put these players in a vacuum and were to evaluate them, Neesmith is maybe $1,000 too cheap. He was on fire during the fall swing. You take a look at the shots gain metrics, they're still going to reflect that. Gaining with the ball striking stats, right around a neutral with the putter and around the green. That's just kind of what he does. And when he's able to go out there and spike with the ball striking, maybe gain a stroke or two with the putter, is when you find him in contention. And I think he's more than viable to do so, way going under the radar. And usually I don't like Neesmith because he's typically, at least in my opinion, higher owned than he probably should be. And that's definitely not the case this week. He's definitely going a little bit under the radar compared to what you mostly see. Proby says, are you playing Turan or Dietrich? Dietrich, I'm going to be off of. That's just ownership based. He's 10 to 12% right now when it comes to my ownership projections. And love Turan, though. So if you had to choose between the two, I would go with Caleb Turan. Part of that's ownership. Another part of it is just form. Caleb Turan has been on fire. You take a look at his shots gained metrics. Let's see, where is he at? Look at this. Gaining 0.4 strokes per round with the putter, nearly 0.6 with the approach play per round, and gaining off the tee. Just a beautiful shots gained profile. I mean, like, if that doesn't want to make you want to play somebody, then I don't know what to tell you. That's exactly what we're looking for. So I would go that direction. Let's see what else we got in the 6K range. Ben Taylor, if you're looking at pure stats, you want to play Ben Taylor here. Just logic tells me otherwise. Just tells me that Ben Taylor's not that guy. So I'm expecting him to fall flat on his face. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll prove all the stat guys right, go out there and have success. I find it really hard to believe that he's that good a player now, that he's just, come out of nowhere and completely gone from like mediocre to like PGA Tour elite sort of player. It's just, I find that highly doubtful. So yeah, I'll be fading him, but we'll see. If he goes out there and wins this week, you know what happened. I guess he is just that guy. Nick Taylor, though. So this was the Canadian I was hinting about before. So he's $7,000. He's very quietly been playing better than people expect. So you take a look at the shots gained metrics. Where you at, Nick Taylor? $7,000. There you are. All right. So right around neutral with the approach play, losing off the tee. Okay, that's fine. But gaining around the green and gaining with the putter. The thing for him is with the putter. He's usually a huge loser there. He's usually a little bit better with the iron play. So, a little bit of give and taking going on. He's a little bit worse of late on approach than he's used to, but much better with the putter, which typically when Nick Taylor can bring the putter to the table is when you want to play him. When you get him at a course where he's comfortable on the greens is where he tends to pop. And at this event in the past, he's been pretty decent on these greens, despite some shoddy shots gained from tee to green. So if you take a look at it, 33rd, 47th, 40th, and a 20th back there 5 years ago. The 20th is kind of what you want to hunker down on. It was by far his best performance. But a lot of these performances have been shots gained in the positive when it comes to the putter. So I know he doesn't have the win. He's not popping like he does at a few other golf courses where he's actually gone out there and gotten a win before. But if he can gain on the greens and then lead into that tee to green play that he's kind of known for, I like what we're seeing with Nick Taylor. So $7,000, I'll be playing him. Back here in the 6K range, Davis Thompson. I know we were giving him crap a little bit earlier, but truth be told, good ball striker, young up-and-coming player that can spike with the putter from time to time. So I think he's a little bit more expensive than he probably should be. I'll say that a little bit overpriced, but as a result, going a little bit under-owned. So you're getting leverage there. I'm still willing to get there. I mean, $6,900, right? I mean, it's not like we're paying $8,000 for somebody and trying to force them into a lineup. You're still saving a bunch of salary, and depending on who you're taking up top, you can probably afford the extra $200 or $300 from where he should be priced. Let's see what else we've got. So this range I don't love here, down honestly, like from the $6,800, $6,900 range. I'm okay with Justin Lauer. I like Sam Ryder a little bit more, though. Sam Ryder loves this course. So if you take a look at his course history, where are you at, Sam Ryder? He's made the cut in his last 5 starts. Now, he hasn't really done anything with it. Right? His best finish is 29th back there 3 years ago. But the shots gained have been good enough. He's been getting by, gaining a bunch with the approach play, gaining a bunch with the putter. Just has to clean it up off the tee. Right? He's a loser off the tee. But the two most important stats when it comes to golf play, right? Approach play and putting, he's been extremely consistent over the last 9 events. So $6,800, he's only 3.1% owned. I think if you're looking for a flyer in this range, you should be at the top of your list. A few other guys, I mean, there's not a ton that I love. There's a lot of plays here that are just okay. Like I could see them going off. Like a David Lingmerth, if you're looking at course history, he's your guy. He's also been playing pretty well of late. You can see he's number 26 in the field when it comes to recent form. Aaron Baddeley, another player you can take in terms of recent form. He's number 15 when it comes to that category out of the field. But I don't know. Just I don't get up in the morning. I don't wake up tomorrow. I don't wake up at 6 a.m. to watch PGA DFS when it's over here on the East Coast. to watch Aaron Baddeley play. I'll just say that. And he's made 13 of his last 15 cuts. Shout out to Aaron Baddeley. I mean, he's getting it done. I played him last week. I played him the week before that. We took advantage of those performances. But I don't know. He got it done the last few weeks. I just doubt it happens again. And maybe that's a backwards way of looking at it, but it's Aaron Baddeley, guys. It's not like I'm counting on this guy every single week to go out there and finish top 10. So I'm probably going to avoid him this week. That might end up biting me, but like if he goes out there and falls flat on his face and no one wants to play him next week, right, because he missed the cut, then I'm going to be back in on Aaron Baddeley because, again, he's made, 13 of his last 16 cuts at that point. That's a huge positive. And as soon as this guy misses a cut or goes out there and has one bad round, no one's going to play him, right? He's going to be like 0.1% owned, 0.2% owned, like he was about a month ago. But I mean, let me look at his ownership number. I mean, it's significant. It's way more significant than it typically is when it comes to Aaron Baddeley. It's not nearly the same sort of leverage play or pivot play in the 6K range that it was in the past. So I don't know. I don't hate the play. Someone asked me about it a little bit earlier today there in a comment on one of my videos. I don't hate the play. I understand it, but I don't know. Just people are starting to play him now. He's no longer that pivot play. And when you compare him to an Adam Schenk, for example, who's literally priced right next to him, I'd rather play Aaron Schenk. He's a better course fit. He's a more aggressive player, sets up more birdie looks, and he's like 10 times lower owned. So for me, that's why I'm trying to make some of those pivots in the 6K range. And I believe as of last count, I had 14 players in my player pool just in the 6K range alone. So I'm, again, taking more of a scattershot approach. And to do so, you kind of got to avoid some of the chalky guys like an Aaron Baddeley. Right? You can't play guys that are going to be 10 times higher owned than their peers, but they're not 10 times the play. Somebody asked about Harry Hall. He loves Bermuda grass. So unfortunately, it's not really a true Bermuda grass this week, or else I probably would have played him. Ben Martin, though, I hate that I'm going over this. Sometimes, I put plays on here on this, sheet to be like highlighted plays, and I hate myself for it because I don't want everyone to go out there and play Ben Martin this week. I hope that everyone on my Patreon does. I hope everyone that supports me does. But I don't want him to be like 8% owned or like 10% owned this week. I have him at 2% right now. If that holds up, he's going to be like the steal of the slate. Last week, he played extremely well in round one. I believe he shot like 3 under par. Round two, had birdie look after birdie look. And at one point during Friday's round, had missed 6 straight putts of less than 10 feet. He had been hitting the ball just, birdie look after birdie look, dart after dart around YLI and couldn't make a thing. And sure, the putter's never really been elite for Ben Martin. You take a look at the last 36 rounds. Like it's again, never been an elite thing for him. He's losing, actually we're on the wrong line there, right? He's gaining a bunch with the approach play, losing a third of a stroke putting, right? Losing around the green. Look at this, gaining 0.78 shots per round with approach. And it's not just been the approach numbers that have been great. When you look at his opportunities gained, he's top 10 in both opportunities gained and opportunities plus gained. So you're looking at somebody that's been throwing darts. You might not be the best putter in human history, but would we be that surprised if somebody like a Ben Martin gained 2 strokes putting this week? Because if he gains 2 strokes putting with how strong the ball striking and tee to green play has been, I mean, he could get into contention. He's $6,500, right? So it's not like we're asking him to win the golf tournament. But if you told me at the end of the week that he finished top 10, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. In fact, I hope he does. If he does, he's going to be an optimal play in DFS. And that's the idea there at $6,500. Plays down low, I love. I think if you take anybody down here around $6,500, they need to be an aggressive player that can make birdies in bunches. Peter Malnati does fit that description. Somebody mentioned Andrew Novak before. He's another aggressive player that's towards the top 15 to 20 of opportunities gained. So kind of like Ben Martin, that's kind of what drew me to him. Plus the recent form, he's number 35 in the field, which is an exceptional value down here at number 104 when it comes to pricing. Tyson Alexander, still love the play. He's only 0.6% owned. What I really like about him as well is the putting. So I don't love putting for my top tier guys, right? But when you're talking about a 6K range golfer, we need everyone in this range to spike ball striking, right? Like there's no one in this range, I guess maybe outside of a Ben Martin, right? Where if they played to their ball striking baseline, we'd feel pretty good about it. Tyson Alexander, we definitely need the spike with the ball striking, but the putter and round the green play have been there. So I love it. I think that he's way too cheap, right? I mentioned he could easily be a 7K range golfer during my value picks video. So I'll be there. Love the recent form from him. They're at number 22. And do I have? I did put him on here. Okay. There's one more guy. There's one really cheap play I'm getting to this week. There are actually a few others down here I'm playing. Let's see. Where are they at? Like a Ryan Armour I'm playing. I know for a fact. I'm playing a Martin Trainer. What's Martin Trainer? Is he like $6,300? He played ball here last year. Yeah, $6,300 Martin Trainer. Believe it or not, I will be playing this week. But Hank Lebioda, $6,100. He was a late add to the field, so these metrics to the left, these are not updated because he was a late add. He was not included in a lot of my modeling, but $6,100 is too cheap. If he wasn't a late add, he'd be $6,500. So it's not like you're talking about a massive price decrease or a price discount there, but you're talking about a player that can really fill it up with the putter. He's an aggressive iron player. And I mean, let's look at the recent form. It's not pretty. Let me tell you that. This is why he's towards the bottom of the pricing board. But nonetheless, let's do the full deep dive on him. Actually, that's right. He's not on the recent form board because of the late ad. Let's bring him up on the other side. We can still bring up his form. Just bring it up on the database. No issues. So pardon me while I bring up Hank Lebioda's last few records here. But even if it's not beautiful, I'm not going to be that worried about it. But something tells me that he's not quite playing as poorly as Draftkings is pricing him at $6,100. So let's see. Good old Hank Lebioda. Alrighty. 1 second here. When you have somebody like Hank Lebioda, who's not like a PGA Tour regular, you have to dive a little bit deeper to find some other stats on these databases. So let's see. It's still updating for me here. All right, there we go. It went through all the old libraries of information to find it on good old Hank. So he's missed 4 straight cuts. It's not ideal, but 2 of them were on the number. Okay, so maybe give him a pass for those 2. But 34th place finish. He had a 16th at the 3M Open. He had a stretch before the 3M Open of 5 straight made cuts. 18th place finish at the Zurich. Okay, that sucks. That's a team event. I don't know. I just think he's got a lot more upside than everyone else in the $6,000 range, particularly down there at like $6,100. So I will be playing Hank Lebioda, probably like 3% of my lineups. But honestly, every single year we play the Amex, somebody down here ends up popping off. Last year, it was Par Barjan. You guys may remember he was in the final group, ended up shooting like 3-4 over par there on Sunday, ejecting himself. But who is this year's Barjan going to be? This is going to be a Lebioda, who's he doesn't pop all that often, but he has done it a few times over the last few years. Is it a Martin Trainer again, right? He seems to love this golf course at $6,300. Is it a Tyson Alexander? Is it a Zach Johnson? Who, by the way, look at Zach Johnson's record here. He seems to love this golf course. I don't know why. But look, of the last 5 starts, he's made 4 of the last 5 cuts and a 20th, a 28th, and a 14th place finish. Pretty damn good for Zach Johnson this late in his career. Maybe it's Peter Malnati that ends up going off this year. Andrew Novak. I mean, like it could be any of these guys. Somebody down here in the 6K range, if not maybe 2 or 3 players, are going to wind up in your optimal lineup. So you want to be scattershotting down low. That's why I'm taking that approach. Why I'm willing to take a guy like a Peter Malnati or a Hank Lebioda when the form doesn't necessarily look so consistent. You got to be willing to take shots on a week like this. Let's catch up on chat. Then we'll hop into the player pool. Not player pool. We'll hop into some lineup construction, go through my top cash plays, and then kind of the thought process with the GPP. But if you have any player questions, you want any deep dives, that sort of thing, it's the time for that. Pro V says, Kevin Yu, love the ball striking stats. Don't love the putting. So, like I said, I'm looking for ball striking though. So don't let that, keep you off of them. But Kevin Yu of late gaining 0.9 strokes off the tee. So if you can get him at Torrey Pines next week, I think that Kevin Yu, if he ends up getting into that field, might be somebody to keep an eye on. But the approach play has been a gainer. He's just losing 0.5 strokes per round with the flat stick. It's kind of like a Luke List Jr., where he's gaining a bunch of strokes with both of the ball striking categories. Maybe wait till next week, Pro V. It might be Kevin Yu season over there at Torrey Pines. Jack P says, any Ben Martin? Yeah, love him. I'm glad I just talked about him for you there. Completely unintentional, Jackson, but yes. And he's kind of like my sleeper pick of the week. I love him. Barry says, Nick Taylor won at Pebble, a course rotate. Yes, I like that. And I like the comp too. The stadium course has extremely small greens. So does Pebble. And I'm trying to think. I think, yeah, Monterey Peninsula, which is another course on the rotation at Pebble, really tiny greens. So yeah, I like it even more, Barry. I didn't think about that before, but you're selling on me. I might have to add 5% to that ownership level there. Robert says, you're fading Thompson out of spite. I love it. I can't blame you. It pissed me off. It honestly, it added about 30 to 40 minutes of work for my showdown sheet. I wasn't that thrilled about that. I didn't like having to type out a bunch of scores from round 2. It's annoying to say the least. Barry says, take Lingmirth, sneaky cheapy. Yeah, I like the course history. Seems like a lot of people are playing Lingmirth. So my ownership on him, I think I had him at like 2.1%. It wasn't very significant when it came to his ownership. I'm probably too low on that. Hindsight here, now that I'm thinking about it, with all these people playing him, he's got to be at least 4% owned. So now to keep you off on Barry, 4% is nothing, right? Put him in 7% of your lineups. You have leverage. I do think maybe I'm a little bit conservative on that metric, though. Michael says, Taylor Moore, do you think he's worth an each way bet? I didn't bet him outright. I didn't take him in that sort of market. But if I like him on DFS, certainly there's going to be value there. A lot of the pricing on DK is directly correlated to outright odds. I know that Taylor Moore's outright number is way up there. I'm assuming you're going to get pretty good odds on the each way too. So yeah, I don't hate it. Sig or Benny Ann, that's going to be Sig for me. So Sig played well here last year. I was watching some of the highlight compilations. He shot 7 under par at the stadium course during round 2 last year. Benny Ann, I'm okay with Benny, but everyone wants to play Benny Ann because the announcers were raving about his swing. So to me, it's just such recent bias. It's just such cherry picking that I'm probably not going to play Benny Ann just out of spite to the people that are doing that. But yeah, I love Grayson Sig. I no one's talking about him either. I'm skipping Kirk. Kind of like Siwoo Kim. I think that you're just a week late on that one. And Anointed says, where can one find the opportunities gain stats? Fantasy National has it. Rick Run Good has it. Any one of those sites that is compiling stats like for everything, and you can check on it event by event, is going to have opportunities gained. So you'll find it there, Matt, on any golf database out there. Any of the good ones. Those are the 2 ones that I use the most to do a lot of cross referencing of stats, and they definitely have it. So if you have access to either of those, which a lot of you out there do, check it out that way. It's the best way to do so. Let's go ahead, hop over to DraftKings, and we're going to talk through a few lineups here together. So first off, we're going to go through the cash build, and then we're going to start to go through the GPP process. And we're not going to make entire lineups together. More just want to talk through, first off, what the chalky build is going to look like, and then maybe a few different ways that you can differentiate off of it, right? Try and pivot, not only when it comes to choosing players, but more importantly, trying to pivot when it comes to lineup construction, how you're actually putting together your salaries. So when it comes to cash, I think that starting with Cantlay is just probably the way to go, just because of the course history and the price tag, right? He's cheaper than a Rahm. He's kind of like the natural first man into a cash lineup this week. In terms of your second man in, Cam Young is like, I don't think you have to play him as your second man in, but kind of like a Cantlay, it's just kind of like that next natural piece. In the 8K range, you could take a Cam Davis. That makes plenty of sense. In fact, that's probably the guy I'm going to go ahead and just click in here. Let's go ahead and click Cam Davis. We're down to 73.3 remaining per player. So we got to take a guy in the bottom of the 7K range, but there's a few guys that make sense. So Ben Taylor, you could take, but I do not like him this week. So I'll be fading him. A Matthew Neesmith, relatively consistent player. Ben Griffin. In fact, Ben Griffin is like the cash play at the bottom of the 7K range this week. So we'll definitely go ahead and click him in there. Let's add one more piece of value down towards the bottom to middle of the 7K. You could take Moore's probably a little bit too risky. Even a Callum Turan just feels like a little bit of a volatile player to be using in a cash lineup. You guys get the idea, right? Like I said, I can't make the whole lineup. DraftKings gets all mad at you. It's against the terms of service, so on and so forth. But in terms of starting with a cash core, maybe you take Cam Davis out of this. going with a Cantlay, Young, and then Ben Griffin as like your first three pieces, that seems like the way that I'm going to go. Now, maybe going up there and taking a Cam Davis is a little bit aggressive because it does put you down to $7,300 remaining. But maybe as your 8K option, you go with, let's see, Poston. Poston's a great cash play. Maybe you take TPC Lee, right? He's played extremely consistent of late. Let's look at this in terms of cuts. When's the last time he missed a cut? Not even on his recent Draftkings record, right? The guy's just been a cut machine here in the 2022-2023 season. Yeah, he makes plenty of sense for these cash contests. But either way, I think that a Griffin, Cam Young, and Cantlay are probably who you should be starting your cash lineup with, no matter who you're taking as your last three options. In terms of GPP lineups, your chalky build this week is going to be to take, a Rahm or Cantlay. Almost all of your chalky lineups are going to have one or the other. The lineups that you see 50 or 100 lineup trains on, I would imagine every single one of those is going to have one or the other when it comes to one of these top end players. But your quote unquote chalk build is going to be to take somebody like a Cantlay and then try and jam in one more player up top that has a bunch of win equity. So that might be a Cam Young, right? He's going to be the most popular player. So kind of like you saw with the cash lineup. And what that's going to do is that's going to force you out of this 8K range. I don't think there's going to be a ton of people that are playing this bottom of the 8K range. Like, let's see, from Thagala the whole way down to, I include everyone on this page here. So everyone you can see on here from Andrew Putnam the whole way down to Denny McCarthy, these guys are going to be underowned just by default, just because of the pricing, because of people trying to jam in two of those studs, the people with the so-and-so win equity there up top. I don't know. So it's just, it feels like it's a good spot to get some pivots, to get some leverage, especially because the win equity difference, right? So like it's perceived win equity. Like everyone goes, oh, it's a Will Zalatoris. Oh, it's a Tom Kim. I have to play them in my lineups. A good way to try and get these guys into lineups and not have to skip this 8K range is to not take a 10K golfer, right? Is to maybe try and differentiate a little bit, right? Maybe you start your lineup with somebody like a Sun JM or start your lineup with a Tom Kim. Take Cam Young as your second man in. As a third man in, you can still take maybe like a Cam Davis, right? So if you were to start with this sort of lineup, I really like being able to dive into this top of the 8K range, bottom of the 9K range, that I think is just going to be underutilized. Like an Aaron Wise, for example, at $9,000, he's going to be lower owned than he should be just because of the guys priced ahead of him. Like a Sam Burns even, like people are going to want to play him because of his ability to go out there and just snap for a win. People are going to want to try and jam in a Willie Z, who I still love, right? I'm still playing him this week. But just when we're thinking about lineup construction, there's more than a few ways to try and get a little bit creative this week. Try and think a little bit differently and attack the slate from a spot of leverage as opposed to perhaps a spot of chalk. So if I was going to take the quote unquote chalky construction, here's a good way to navigate that, right? So if you don't want to just start your lineup in the 9K range, you do want to take somebody up top. Here's a good way to navigate that. So I still love Scotty Scheffler. You could take him there. If we want to take our second man in as perhaps like a Sam Burns, let's take the Scheffler Burns combo, two best friends out there. So let's start with those two. We're going to be forced out of this 8K range, but let's just make sure that we're not playing chalky here, right? So taking a Davis Riley, he's not super low owned, but he is a little bit of a pivot there down towards the middle of the 7K, rather than taking a Dietrich, who's going to be getting about 10 to 15% ownership, just because we're in the quote unquote chalk build. Maybe just to be a little bit more mindful about that and go to a Sebastian Munoz, right? He's only like 2% owned. So if you're going to take the quote unquote chalk build like most of the field out there, just take pivots. It's not that difficult. You can still take the chalk build and get away with it. You still spend all your salary if you want to and probably get away with it. Let's go, put a Keith Mitchell in there. Then you're at $7,100 and you can take your favorite player there at 7,100. So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm going through and hand building lineups. Out of the 150, I'm probably going to hand build like 50 of them for this and try and do 100 on my optimizer. I've been trying to do that of late just so that I can attack specific builds, because when I'm doing my opto, it's going to just, go by the numbers, just try and jam in the highest projected lines first, so on and so forth. Whereas, if I want to start some lineups here with a Tom Kim as my first man in, or God forbid, a Sam Burns is my first man, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have lineups where Sam Burns is my first man into my lineup on this event. I might have to force it in because the optimizer is not going to get there, right? It's quote unquote building below the optimal lineup or below what's like the cash lineup build out there. But for these GPP winning lineups, we see some crazy shit taking them down from time to time. So I'm gonna hand build a few lineups tonight for the first time in a while to make sure I could take advantage of that. Let's hop over to Prize Picks after we go through questions. We have Badly changed his swing. It's good to know. Yeah, I know he's hooding in a little bit more. He has a closed club face. It looks like his path is a little bit more inside to out. He's really been hitting the draw, at least from what I could see over the last 2 events. Yeah, it might help him, but I don't know. He's just, to me, he's not that guy. Like, he starts to get ownership, I'm off of him. Like, I liked him last week at like 0.2%. He was like 0.3% owned last week. I don't know. I can't justify playing him at ownership. He's just, to me, he's not that guy. I just can't get it out of my head. Let's go through the Prize Picks board, though. So if you do have any questions for DFS, you can still ask them. We'll get back to them a little bit later. But now is the time for Prize Picks as well. And a lot of it's been bumped. I loved the Fairways board. I felt like it was completely mispriced earlier in the day. They had a Zach Johnson, a Russell Knox at 8.5. They had a Gsluke at 8. They had a Keith Mitchell at 8 fairways. They had Bazanu at 8. They had Aaron Wise, believe it or not, at 7.5 fairways. He's gone the whole way up to 8.5 fairways now. So he's gone bumped an entire fairway. And the reason why I was so bullish here is when they had everyone at like 7.5 and 8 fairways, you know, I was looking at the averages from last year and they were 8.5 fairways. It was 8.49, sorry, 8.48 fairways, something like that. Let me see. Yeah, 8.48 fairways is the number that we had on that. So if that's the average for the field, and these players are much better than your average players, like the ones that they chose here for the stadium course are not your average Joes in this field, right? Like they're at least 7K golfers, at least like $7,500 golfers. And then when you look at their accuracy percentages is when you're just getting the icing on the cake. Occasionally, for example, was, you know, about 2-3% better than your PGA Tour average. So I love them then. I don't love them now, though, because of the bumps. But there's still a few on here I like. So I'm glad I saved them till now. So the St. Bernard's over at even 8. You could take him over. It would make sense. Tom Hoagie, by the way, at 8.5 fairways. There's still a few guys that they haven't bumped on here that I would certainly take an over on. I mean, even a Munoz at 8. These guys at 7.5 fairways, like you could just jam the overs on this board that haven't been bumped, and I'd be all for it. It's a course that's surrendering 8.5 fairways hit per average. And sure, I know that Sam Burns not the most accurate driver in the world, right? So maybe you don't go with him. Munoz, same sort of thing. But even these guys at 7.5, like they would have to shoot so below, so like at least like 10% lower than their average on tour to hit the under, to only hit half their fairways. I mean, even a Cam Davis and Luke List average right around 56% of their fairways, which is right around 7.5 fairways. So it's right around their projection. With soft conditions, it's rained 4 of the last 14 days around Palm Springs. It's expected to be extremely humid, extremely receptive, both from the fairway and the green perspective. There's still a little bit of value to be had there, but I wouldn't jam in the bets. The only one I'll keep up here, we're going to make a card here together right now, is I'll keep the Tom Hoagie one on there. You know, I would still consider taking the Burns one, if, you know, a few of the guys at 7.5. But Hoagie is no doubt the best one on the board. If you go over here to greens regulation, the average last year was 12.6 greens regulation. So the board's relatively fair priced. I'd say the guys at 13 are your better iron players. So nobody I'd be fading there. Also, the guys at 13, probably not taking overs on them, because to get to 14 greens regulation is quite a task. The unfortunate part is the only guys at 12.5 on the board are a little bit inconsistent. I mean, Keith Mitchell, he's more often than not going to cover this line, but it's, I don't know, it's like a 55-45 sort of line, maybe like a 60-40 at the very best for somebody like a Keith Mitchell. And that's being nice to him. I'd say that, right? That's giving him the benefit of the doubt there. I'm saying that's a 60-40 prop for Keith Mitchell. So I'm probably avoiding the guys here in greens regulation. I think it's fairly priced. Go over to strokes. At this point, late in the day, right, a lot of the value's gone because there's just been so many bumps. I believe of like the 12 props I gave, at least 9 to 10 of them were bumped at this point. Even the ones on Underdog I gave ended up getting bumped. But like Cam Davis under, I saw a few other people in the industry on that. I would agree with that. If you didn't want to take Tom Hoagie for fairways, you could take him over here for strokes, another player that I'd be comfortable taking the under on. The field average is going to be right around a 70 for the stadium course tomorrow. Again, the average last year was minus 1.43. The reason why I say it should be right around a 70 average is not only do you have a better player just on this board, like I said, these aren't your average cats, right? Like these are at least like the top 15 to 20 players playing on the stadium course tomorrow out of the 60 that'll be there. I mean, there's soft conditions too. I mean, and look at it, the wind, right? I know we didn't talk about it a ton when it came to DFS just because there aren't really any waves to worry about, but the weather is going to be perfect, right? It's between 3 to 7 miles an hour of wind. Your wind gusts aren't all that much higher. So you're going to see a few guys take this course apart tomorrow. So don't be surprised if this minus 1.43 average is actually a little bit better tomorrow. So in terms of strokes, these are a few of the guys I'd consider. I mean, Aaron Wise too, actually not the worst play for strokes. In terms of the guys at 70, I guess Munoz, because you have the push at 70. And I guess that makes that a pretty favorable situation. It's just the board over here for fairways was so good before that obviously I'm not going to end up adding any more bets just because I feel really good about the ones that I had before that ended up getting bumped. But if I was going to add anything right now, it would be a majority of these strokes guys and then trying to mix in one of these matchups. And the matchup I really like here for this is this Xander Schauffele under. So Xander, even though I like him, right, for 4-round contests, I think he brings upside. He's against Patrick Cantlay, right? And Patrick Cantlay, no injury concerns, loves this golf course. Like I said, his average finishing position is 6.33 at this event over his last 4 starts. And he's against somebody that might be injured, right? And I know the injury concerns seem to be a little bit smaller now at this point for Xander, but it's a good matchup to take, especially when it's a 50-50 sort of prop. If you do so, you get a little bit of a payout drop there. So let's go ahead and fix that. Okay, we're going to put the Tom Hoge over in fairways as the official pick. This is the 4-man we'll go with for the stream here. So it'll be Cam Davis under 69.5. I like that one. Aaron Wise, another ball striker that's aggressive, under 69.5. I like that a lot more than the birdie line because both of them they're up there at 5 birdies. So obviously they'd have to get 6 to hit there, whereas just shooting 3 under par ends up getting there for the strokes line. The Hoge over on fairways, he's one of the more accurate drivers on tour. So if the field average is going to be 8.5 fairways, right, we'd expect an elite driver to hit more fairways than the average. So definitely taking the over there. And then this under on Xander is just for the payout multiplier, right? So if we were to go out there and swap the Xander for, let's say, like a Sam Burns here, you're only going to get a 7x payout. It's also going to affect the flex play payout. But because we're taking a birdie or better matchup, they treat it a little bit differently here and they give you the full payout, right? So it's a full 10x over here for the power play. You're back to the normal payouts when it comes to your flex play. That's how I'd probably handle this sort of card. So if you're getting in late, I apologize, guys. If you do want access to my props when they immediately drop, make sure to get on the Patreon page. Just like a lot of the DFS data that I'm posting on there for everybody. If you want the props while they're hot off the press, right, before they end up getting bumped, that's the best way to get access to them. So that's all we got from the prop side. Let's go ahead, see if there's any comments down below, and I'll get this thing rocking. So Pro says, Doug Gim. I don't know, man. Let's look at the shots gained. All right, so in terms of Doug Gim's shots gained, the approach play has been a negative of late. So he's kind of stuck in bizarro world where he's gaining slightly off the tee. Let me share my screen for you here. Bring it up for you. There we go. All right, here we go. So Doug Gim is gaining off the tee of late. He's actually gaining around the green. That's surprising. He's not the best short game player, and he's gaining with the putter. He's normally hemorrhaging strokes with the putter, right? He's normally right around like 0.4, 0.5 shots lost and gaining with the iron play. So I don't know, man. The shots gained are kind of concerning. Let's look at the recent form. What's his price tag? He's what, $6,800? Let's see. So $6,800. Yeah, he hasn't made a cut in a while. I don't know, man. It's not the craziest play. He likes this golf course. What's his event history? I know it's a lot better. I know he played decently here last year. He likes an easy course. We can definitely say that about Doug Gim, right? He made the cut last year, 5th back there in 2021. So I like what I'm seeing with that. I don't know. I think you're really fishing for it out there, Pro V, but I've seen crazier things happen. BJH says, this constant love everyone always gives Davis and Riley is baffling. You can go $1,000 under and get higher upside. Yeah, I'll respectfully disagree. I don't know who's $1,000 cheaper that you can get. And I'm not even like a huge like Cam Davis or Davis Riley stan. Like I play them when birdie or better percentage makes sense. I think what people, are getting behind this week is their opportunities gained. Like objectively, like per the numbers, Davis Riley had more birdie looks over the last 36 rounds than like anybody else in the field. I think he's top 5 in both opportunities and opportunities plus gained. So there's a stat reason for why people like Davis Riley there. And same thing for freaking Cam Davis. Like, are you kidding me? He's 35-1. You're saying $1,000 cheaper. There's guys that are 35-1. Are you saying that Ricky Fowler's 35-1 or Keith Mitchell? These guys are like 60, 75-1. So respectfully, I disagree. And honestly, I disagree with both of them. Like even Davis Riley, like you're telling me guys that are $6,700 how as much winning upside as Davis Riley. And I know Riley hasn't won a golf tournament yet, but they don't like the odds. These guys that build these Vegas casinos, I don't think they build them posting shitty odds that are that far off. So respectfully, I disagree. I understand that the circle jerk around them can get a little bit annoying. I think that's kind of what you're referring to. That people just like, oh, I love Cam Davis. He's a good fantasy scorer. Or like I get that. It's annoying, right? But there are legitimate reasons to liking the play of those people. Like I tend to agree with those people this week. I think they're good plays. But yeah, like last week at YLI, people were playing Cam Davis. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't feel like a Cam Davis golf course to me. So I was definitely not there. I mean, Davis Riley last week, I probably wouldn't have played him either. But yeah, like there's a time and place for it. That's all I'll say, Blitz. Is like I tend to agree with you, but I also tend to disagree. I don't think there's that many better options around them. But yeah, it is annoying. You're right. There are players like that just get, way too much attention. I mean, let's give you a few examples, right? Andrew Putnam, in my opinion, my honest opinion, is very much so overrated. Pendrith's kind of like that same kind of guy, isn't he? Right? Goes out there, he kind of just gets everyone's attention. Everyone's like, oh, Taylor Pendrith, a great fantasy player, right? He's not always the best play per the metrics. So I don't know, maybe he's one of those sort of players. Patrick Rogers. I don't know. There's a few of them out there. You're right, Blitz. I understand. I understand what you're saying there, but I do get the plays this week. I'm kind of looking for those sort of guys this week. And you say good for cash sometimes, but not always the ownership. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, no, I know you weren't meaning any disrespect. No, I got you. But I was trying to like think through your process. I understand what you're saying. I tend to think you're right there, boss, because I understand what you're saying. They're overrated, but I do like them this week. I'm conflicted on it because I tend to agree with you. Corey Connors the same way. Russell Henley is kind of the same way. Those kind of guys always get way too much attention, like they're overrated. And you said, yeah, Pendrith Rogers, exactly those kind of guys. So is Corey Connors, right? Because Corey Connors, he's always like 20, 25% owned. And he finishes top 5, top 10 once a year. Literally like once a year. Corey Connors is an optimal play. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of guys like that. Maybe Riley's that guy. Maybe Cam Davis is that guy. I'll learn this week the hard way if that's the case. But I don't know. There's a lot of blind spots out there. I know one's for me is Jordan Spieth. You could give me Jordan Spieth with the worst shots gained profile of all time. I'm playing him. I'm a sucker for the guy. But that's all I've got, boys. We'll go ahead and leave it on that. Best of luck with all of your lineups. If you guys are playing on Prize Picks, go ahead, smash that like button before you get out of here. And we'll be doing a live stream for rounds 2 through 4. So we'll have a showdown stream coming out. Play will be finishing up right around like 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll get our projections out. I assume I'll be going live right around like 10 p.m. Eastern. So keep an eye out for my Twitter, my social media. If you guys are on the Discord, I'll make sure go ahead to let you guys know when I'm going live and whatnot. But we'll be touching on Showdown, which for rounds 2 and 3 are going to be a gold mine. We're going to have all the data that we need after round 1 to go out there, know what course is going to be optimal for rounds 2 and 3 in Showdown. We're going to have weather report, so on and so forth. We'll be able to refine our modeling when it comes to how these courses are playing. It should be a really big edge when it comes to Showdown. So I'm looking forward to it. We will definitely have those streams for you. And make sure you check out the community contest. There's a link in the description of the stream. If you guys want to have your lineups reviewed next week, we'll be doing a review stream on Monday. I meant to do it this week. I had to go to the doctor. As a lot of you guys know, I was really sick last week. I had COVID, so I had to go in on Monday and have that checked out. And right during when I would have done the review stream. So unfortunately, couldn't do it this week. But if you do want your lineup reviewed, make sure to get into there. And if you want to play for bragging rights too, right? I mean, we're playing in there for all the all the shit talking, right? If you end up finishing in last place, best believe that you're going to get a lick from a few people about that. It'll be a lot of fun. So we'll have fun with it. Like I said, best of luck though, boys. Really looking forward to this week and maybe cash out and see the green in our DK accounts.